Next week, we'll be discussing RRR from 2022. Chris, how was your watch?
I'm not even gonna try to like slow play or undersell the headline here. I love this movie. This
Yes.
was the first Bollywood movie I've ever
Yes.
seen. I never saw Slumdog Millionaire, even though it was like critically acclaimed. I never had any reason not to watch them, but I never did. And KJ brought this one up. I remember watching the Oscars last year when they got the win for the song, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, that's cool. Still didn't watch it. I have no idea what the hangup was, but I loved every moment of this movie. And I think KJ at one point you had texted us during the week, that you were smiling as you were watching it. And
Mm-hmm.
I definitely caught myself smiling as I was watching this at least 4 or 5 times. If to be fair, if I have to be critical of something, it is a little long. 3 hours and seven
Yeah.
minutes
Mm-hmm.
is a little long for a movie, but I did do it in multiple sittings. And I can't I mean, it's got some heavyweight material to it. Like it's got some heavyweight kind of get you in the feels moments, but they do it in such a way that it's still kind of fun and fanciful. And there's music and songs and dancing in a story about India occupied by England, and I really really enjoyed it. I didn't know that I was going to enjoy it when KJ said it, but man, was it awesome. KJ, what about you? How was your first watch or for this watch?
Oh, Chris, I also love this movie. Like you, my introduction was that song. So they announced the nominees for best song. There was five of them, something from Top Gun maybe. And this one I played over and over and over again. So I'm like, I'm gonna watch this movie. So I started it on Netflix. I set it to Hindi, but then I realized it wasn't recorded in Hindi. I usually like to watch movies in their native tongue. So then I set it to English, and it was not easy to watch. But luckily, one of the theaters in Philly was playing it. So I said to my wife, Rachel, hey Rach, let's go down and watch this movie because they were going to have it in Telu. It was one of the greatest movie theater experience I've ever had. The crowd was so into the movie. They cheered when our heroes did the right things. They jeered literally when the villains were successful. It was awesome. Fell in love with the movie. I listened to the soundtrack, I don't know, 50 times, a million times. I watched it again for this show. I like Chris said, big smile on my face. I'm so excited to hear what you guys have to say about it. I loved it. Audience, just get out there, watch it. Like Chris said, maybe do it in a few settings. There is an actual intermission, so if you want to take a break, then that's probably not a bad idea. How about you, Tom? What are your first impressions? I'm sorry, it's Telugu. Is it Telugu? Yeah. Audience, I've been saying Telu. It's Telugu. I need to educate myself. I had a college professor who's also a theater critic, and for some reason, somebody had this person review the ABBA musical Mamma Mia, and he wrote that trying to review this would be like trying to review the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Um, and that was my experience with this movie. Trying to like think critically about this movie would be like trying to think critically about an amusement park ride. It's just a collection of scenes that are really fun and really exciting, be it a dance number or one of the action numbers. The movie has many action numbers, it has multiple dance numbers, which are a delight. The movie is completely lacking in any kind of what we call hipster irony, right? It's playing every emotion straight, and though it is dealing with historical trauma and pretty severe historical trauma in very, very violent terms, it is not shy in its depiction of violence. Yet the movie feels like a collection of events or a collection of happenings. It has no tolerance for realism. It wants the most extreme and almost silly thing to happen without commenting or winking at us that something silly or extreme is happening. And so to talk about this movie being a good movie or a bad movie seems like the wrong conversation to have. It's a collection of exciting events, much like a theme park is a collection of exciting events. And what's I think fascinating about that idea or that way of contextualizing historical trauma is that um,
is that they're framing what was a really cruel period in this country's history in these terms. And it's really actually reminds me a lot of Quentin Tarantino's Inglorious Bastards, who does
Yeah.
something very similar.
Hmm.
Quentin Tarantino actually, in a few of his movies, Inglorious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and also Django Unchained, is kind of looking back on something horrible in history and recontextualizing it in kind of a silly or maybe somewhat goofy way in order to have some sort of authority or ownership of something that is otherwise tragic. And I think this movie is doing that too, although everything is dialed up to 11.
RRR is available on Netflix at the time of this recording, and like Tom said, audience, it is a very violent movie, so heads up for that as well.